are these people?
This is a major story, and no one reported on this, which honestly, I'm a little surprised. Considering I know, like, especially like RVN have talked about Emmett Till. I know we've also talked about Emmett Till in various segments that we have done, but this story kind of went on way under the radar. So, as I said, we were sitting on this for the last couple of weeks, but I figured someone would have spoken about this up till now, but no. So, and actually, yeah, Ed, yeah, I actually said the virtual. I said virtual.
It's specific. The
virtue or the virtual. Yeah. No, it's virtue.
Right. You put virtual. You spelled it wrong on purpose.
Yeah. Yes, I spelled it wrong. So, yep, gotta change that. So thanks, Ed. So we'll change that. Definitely when it's easy to change, so I can update that later. But you guys get the point.
Autocorrect. I blame it on the autocorrect.
Yeah. So let's talk about Emmett Till for a few minutes. So this is from the Business Insider, written by John J. Dorman, who writes, Biden creates a national monument honoring Emmett Till, the black teenager whose 1955 murder was a catalyst for the civil rights movement. So he writes, President Joe Biden 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago established a national monument in honor of Emmett Till, the black teenager from Chicago whose 1955 kidnapping and murder in Mississippi was a defining spark in the emerging civil rights movement. Biden made the announcement of what would have been Till's 82nd birthday. The president signed a proclamation forming the Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley National Monument, which is also reflective of the decades-long civil rights work of Till's mother, who fought valiantly for equality for Black Americans after her son's murder. The monument will consist of a site in Chicago, the city where Emmett Till was born, and 2 sites in Mississippi, where the 14-year-old traveled during that fateful 1955 summer to spend time with his cousins.
Well, sounds like we need to ask Hardlands to do a in-person thing.
Yeah, we could probably ask it. For that. I know no matter how much time has passed, how many birthdays, how many events, how many anniversaries, it's hard to relive this. It brings it all back like it happened yesterday, Biden said as he was recounting how he was 12 years old when Till was murdered. The president, speaking at the Eisenhower Executive Office building next to the White House, then pushed back against any attempts to minimize or rewrite history, especially as it relates to some of the most traumatic incidences in the nation's history. At a time when there are those who seek to ban books and bury history, we're making it clear. Crystal clear, he said. We can't just choose to learn what we want to know. We have to learn what we should know. We should know about our country. We should know everything, the good, the bad, the truth. It's who we are as a nation.
And the ugly.
For only with truth comes healing, justice, repair, and forming a more perfect union, he continued. That's what's going to happen when visitors of all backgrounds learn about the history of Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley. Telling the truth and the full history of our nation is important. In August 1955, Emmett Till was accused by Carolyn Bryan Donham of making advances towards her while he was inside the Bryan's Grocery and Meat Market in Money, Mississippi, which at the time was run by Donham and her then husband, Roy Bryan. The accusation prompted Bryan and his half-brother, J.W. Millam, to abduct Till at gunpoint from the home of his great-uncle, Moses Wright. Bryan and Millam then tortured and lynched the teenager before throwing his body into the Tallahatchie River.
And both of those aren't strong enough words to describe what actually happened.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, little kids might be reading this, but it's a little more pleasant than what actually did happen to him. Till's battered body was weighed down by a cotton gin fan and was found several days later. His face was unrecognizable. But at his funeral service in Chicago, Mamie Till Mobley insisted that her son would have an open casket funeral.
She's a badass individual.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. So the world could see the brutality and horror of what her son endured in the segregated South. Biden, during his remarks, also praised the Black press, especially citing Jet magazine and the Chicago Defender for the unyielding pursuit in revealing Till's case, calling them another hero in the story. The Illinois Monument site will be the Roberts Temple Church of God in Christ in the Bronzeville neighborhood of Chicago on the city's south side. Where Emmett Till's funeral. Yeah, so Kit can probably do this, definitely do this. Yeah. What Emmett Till's funeral was held in 1955. The Mississippi sites include Burball Landing, where it is believed that Till's body was recovered from the Tallahatchie River, and the Tallahatchie County 2nd District Courthouse in Sumner, where Bryant and Milam were tried and acquitted by an all-white jury. Teresa Pernino, president and CEO of the National Parks Conservation Association, said that there are few stories as heart-wrenching as Till's murder, but also remarked that it is a story of determination. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I kind of get it, but that's kind of a little flowery for this, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's museum curator, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and it is. She's right, it is. It's heart-wrenching as shit. You know.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would have used determination. I think given from Miss Mammy, sure, but I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure if that would have been the word I would have used.
It's despicable and disgusting and
tragic.
Yeah,
tragic, and yeah. So I don't know.
I feel you.
This is a story of a brave young mother who experienced a parent's worst nightmare, but found the strength and power to rise up and shine a light on injustice as a leader in the civil rights movement. Mamie Till Mobley galvanized a movement and inspired the nation, she said in a statement. In a 1956 article in Look magazine, Bryant and Milham confessed to the murder. Both men have since died.
Yep. And the woman has died, right?
She, no, that's
she was 88 years old.
Just died. Yeah, she died in April of this year, I believe.
Yeah.
Donna died. Yeah, Donna died in April. She was 88 years old. Last December, Congress voted to award the Congressional Gold Medal posthumously to Till and his mother. Last March, Biden signed into law the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, which made lynching a federal hate crime for the first time in U.S. history.
And that was before or after he wrote the crime bill. Just saying.
The president's push to elevate civil rights leaders and acknowledge the full scope of Black history comes, now this is where it takes a turn, comes as Republicans in recent years have sought to limit how race can be taught in classrooms, with conservatives also targeting diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and hailing the Supreme Court's recent decision to end affirmative action in college admissions.
i.e.
sanctimonious.
Yeah. Biden's original student debt plan, which was invalidated by the Supreme Court, was also intended to be one that had a significant racial equity element, as the administration sought to narrow the racial wealth gap by forgiving $10,000 in loans for individuals and $20,000 in loans for individuals who have received the Pell Grants given to low-income students.
Yep.
Do I need to repeat this again?
Nope. Nope.
I'm going to repeat
it anyway.
No, I think it's especially important in this case. And you could say this in the chat if I'm lying. Didn't Biden promise students who went to HBCUs that they would have their student loans forgiven, or students that went to public schools who made under $125,000 a year? Did he not say that was something that he was looking to do?
He also could just wipe out student debt collectively as a whole through the power of the education department, I guess. Who has the power to do that?
Well, Cardona can do that.
Right, Cardona. That's it. Secretary of Education.
Yes. So rather than what they're doing right now is trying to piecemeal together.
Yep. And also, who voted for those particular conservative candidates on the Supreme Court? Oh, that's right, Joe Biden.
Right.
So
anyway, so you can fuck off with that. So
yeah, everyone's to blame.
So more spin. Vice President Kamala Harris, who last week sharply criticized Republican Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida. I'm going to speak about her in a second, but over revised state education guidelines for middle schoolers that mandate teachers include instruction about how slaves develop skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit, made reference to the issue again during her remarks at the ceremony.
Do not come.
Today, there are those in our nation who would prefer. Actually, I'm going to try and read it in her cadence.
Okay.
Excuse me.
What?
Today, there are those in our nation who would prefer to erase or even rewrite the ugly parts of our past, she said. Those who attempt to teach that enslaved people benefited from slavery. Those who insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, who try to divide our nation with unnecessary debates. Did I do all right there?
Close enough.
Did all right. Close enough. DeSantis last week pushed back against Harris, accusing her of seeking to demagogue the curriculum issue, while also stating that he wasn't involved in the changes made by state education officials. Yeah, two things with that. Mm-hmm. Well, one thing for this. He was involved. He hired these education officials.
Yes.
So, yes, you were involved, even though you weren't necessarily writing the curriculum.
Yep.
You were involved in the goons that are on the state board, sir. So, indirectly, yes, you were. And I will say this for Vice President Kamala Harris, if you can stop 1 second. Kamala is Indian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's at least culturally. Okay,
like Elizabeth Warren Indian or
no Indian as in on the mainland,
gotcha.
like not Native American here, but like her mother is Indian. Her father is biracial from Jamaica.
Oh,
keep that in mind. It just kind of baffles me that, and I might get a lot of hate for this, but I don't care. But it just baffles me that because she has a drop of black in her, and some people might make the argument she's not real black, quote unquote, because she's not African American. She's from the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. So, but even with that, but just because she has one drop of black in her, that makes her black. For all intents and purposes, I don't consider Kamala a black woman. I consider her multiracial. I consider her a woman of color.
And you ain't black.
I consider her culturally Indian. Yep. She grew up with an Indian mother, okay, for most of her life. She's only playing black for convenience.
Yeah.
The only claim that she has is that she went to Howard. That's it.
She got hot sauce in her bag. Don't worry about it.
Right. So, but you notice what she's doing, like in terms of like, she's now gone down to Florida to challenge DeSantis in terms of the curriculum, more or less as the virtual signal, but but it's not coming in my mind, it's not coming from an authentic place. It's just more like, oh, I'm the person of color and I'm black, quote unquote. So, I have to stand up for this as my job, I guess. But, again, this is the same woman who prosecuted how many black families when she was in what state? California, when she was state prosecutor in California. Like, you know, so her history has not indicated that she is an advocate for black people.
Enforce the crime bill, you know?
Yes. Yep. So yeah, so it just, so it's just a whole lot of, but again, you notice how in this article they made the shift from, yeah, we feel sorry for Emmett Till, but Republicans,
right?
You know, and more specifically DeSantis, versus let's take a look at Biden's history. Let's take a look at Kamala's history, and in my mind, really have disqualified themselves from even mentioning Emmett Till's name. And Bree Newsom Bashies, an activist I forgot where, actually kind of agrees with me, where she says, Joe Biden and Emmett Till were only 2 years apart in age. All of this performative pretending not to know about the lynching culture of white America is exactly that, performative. Come on. White America culture is one of the most violent cultures in history. That's the truth that it has to be constantly buried and ignored as they continue to be violent and genocidal towards black people and anyone who isn't whatever white is at that point in time. White American lynching rituals, like programs in Europe, are about terrorizing an ethnic group, in this place, black Americans.
Pogroms.
Yeah. White American lynching rituals continue to this day. Mainstream U.S. culture is so putrid with anti-black racism that people mostly normalize racist violence. And the reality of white people lusting to terrorize and murder black Americans whenever they feel structural whiteness is threatened.
Also,
so Dr. Nick, Dr. Nick, you're right. It's not just blacks, but I think given our history, I think it's definitely more, especially elevated.
It's always class. It just happens to be that black people end up being in a lower class because white people make sure they stay there.
Right.
You know, so it's always economics, but you know,
right.
So
Chuck Modi, who is, I guess I can call him a friend of sorts, but he knows who I am. He lives in DC as well.
He's around on Twitter.
He made a comment. It's good to have a national monument to honor Emmett Till and Mammy Till Mobley, but Biden also increased number of federal police. It was police who protected Collin and Brian Dunham and refused to serve a search warrant found 87 years later.
67.
Symbolism must complement justice policies, not substitute for it. So what does he mean by that? I'm going to tell you what he means because he actually did the work for me, and he took a screenshot of this article, but we're going to read it to you now, at least most of it. So this is from The Guardian, where it writes, and I think this was written back in the fall, I believe, of this past year. So Emmett Till accuser received protection from police, she said in Memoir. Recently emerged Brooks sheds new light on lynching after grand jury declined to charge Collin Brian Dunham. By her own telling, Collin Brian Dunham received preferential treatment rather than prosecution by Mississippi authorities after her encounter with Emmett Till led to the lynching of the black teenager in the summer of 1955.
That's the 1955. That's not that long ago.
Right.
Like, most of our parents were born maybe 10 years off of that. Like, mine was in the 50s. My mother was 5 years old when this happened.
My parents were teenagers by this time.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea how old my parents are. But you know, they are as old as Emmett Till would be if he was still alive.
Yep.
Yeah, my parents are just as old as Biden is, basically. Instead of arresting Dunham on a warrant that accused her of kidnapping days until after Till's abduction, an officer passed along word that relatives would take her and her 2 young sons away from home amid a rising fervor over the case, Dunham said in a 2008 memoir made public last month. The sheriff would later claim Dunham, 21 at the time, could not be located for arrest.
Yep.
See the bullshit that well, this was in the 50s. Yep. Has much changed since then? Nope.
Nope.
Once her husband and his half-brother were jailed on murder charges in Till's death, she said in the unpublished manuscript, 2 men with the sheriff's office drove her and her sister-in-law to the lockup of a relaxed visit outside their cell and even ferried the women back home. Later, before the murder trial, the men somehow were allowed to attend a family dinner without guards, she said.
I'm in danger.
Can you scroll up, please? Yeah. I was shocked. How in the world were they released from jail to come to eat supper with us? I didn't see who dropped them off or picked them up to return them to jail, but we had a wonderful evening together, Dunham recalled. The cognitive
Yes. Yeah.
Dunham recalled in her memoir, written by her daughter-in-law based on the older women's words. Actually, first of all, can I say this? You would think if she knew this, she would have kept this to her grave.
Yeah.
This is some bold ass shit that she was like, yeah, I did it, and what?
The issue is,
what are you gonna do about
it? Deathbed guilt. So
nearly 70 years later, Dunham's retelling of the days surrounding Till's abduction and lynching strokes fresh frustration among relatives of Till and activists pushing for Dunham's prosecution, particularly now that a Mississippi grand jury has decided against charging her with kidnapping in his abduction or manslaughter in his death. For them, the revelations also raise questions about whether Dunham, now 88, is still being protected despite what they see as new evidence against her. Collin Dunham has rarely commented publicly on the Till case, as she has not said anything publicly about a recent decision against new charges.
Yep.
That's why her memoir, made public by a historian who said he obtained it during an interview years ago, created such a stir when it was released a few weeks ago. The decision not to indict her following media reports with details of the document, but it's unclear whether grand jurors consider contents of the autobiography. So basically, because it was a book, they were basically like, we can't tell if this is actual evidence or not. Okay, that's some bullshit. But
yeah.
Anyway, in the 99-page memoir, Dunham said Till, 14 and visiting relatives in Mississippi from Chicago, walked into the family-owned store where she was minding the counter on 24th of August, 1955. Neither her husband, Roy Bryant, nor his half-brother, J.W. Milham, were around that day. It was just her and Till, who also went by the family nickname of Bobo. In the account, Dunham repeats her testimony about the murder trial that Till grabbed her and made lewd comments. He also whistled, she said, in the only part of her story backed up by Wheeler Parker Jr., Till's cousin and a witness during an interview with the Associated Press. Evidence indicated Till was abducted at gunpoint days later by 2 armed white men, and a woman probably identified the youth for them. While Dunham denied in the memoir identifying Till and says she in straight tried to help him, lies, sure, she was named in the kidnapping warrant along with Brian and Milham. Donna was never arrested despite police knowing where she was located at least part of the time. For a period, Dunham said she was spirited away with the knowledge of officers. That's such an interesting and shuffled between homes by the Bryant family. So if she didn't do anything, why was she in hiding?
Yep.
Then, with Dunham in the courtroom, the 2 men were tried and acquitted in Till's murder. The kidnapping charges were dropped later, and no one has been charged or tried since. After their acquittal, Bryant and Milham admitted to the abduction and killed in an interview with Look magazine. In the memoir, Dorman said she did not even know there was a warrant for her arrest until an FBI agent told her during a renewed inquiry decades later.
Yep.
You see, like, there's just so many layers to this. Like,
yep.
Mississippi, like the local police, Mississippi State Police, the FBI. And actually, you know what? Biden, again, and this is what I wanted to bring them back to. Like, this came out late last year, and I'll get to your super chat in a second, Dr. Net. But like, again, with the platitudes and all, why didn't Biden enforce this?
Yep.
Like, this happened last year. All of this kind of came out like last fall, at least when the article was written last fall. So why didn't Biden
virtue signal later, Collin?
I guess.
So
shout out to Nick, Dr. Nick, for another super chat.
Yeah, I would argue they're probably the ones that would be aware, Nick, but I feel you.
Right. That's the problem, CRC. You and Joe Nice think back history starts in the States in 1619, when in fact it starts in the Americas way before 1619. It's Black history, not history of Blacks in the U.S. No, you're right. No, I don't.
Yeah, we're aware.
Like, I would argue, no, I'm well aware of that. But I'm just saying, in this case, this is recent.
Yeah.
Like, this is basically within our life. Well, definitely within our parents' or grandparents' lifetimes.
Yeah, this is
and this shit. Right. So this is more closer to us than like to my ancestors back in the 1600s.
Yeah.
But
yep.
You would think, from then to now, relatively, that things would have gotten better for Black people. And obviously with this, you could tell that's far from it. But again, my point is, rather than giving the virtual signal, like, Biden could have pushed for Dorman for her arrest. And why didn't he? Well, we know why, and you guys are smart. You can make that conclusion on your own. But again, it's just the idea of like saying, oh, we have to learn from our history, but not doing anything to ensure that, an anti-lynching bill, whatever, doesn't mean a damn thing if you're funding the police more.
Yeah.
And like, police don't have to lynch us anymore. They can just beat us to a pulp if they choose to, just because.
Yeah.
So, you wrote an anti-lynching bill, but we're still in trouble with the cops either way. So it really doesn't do. So this anti-lynching bill to me is just a whole lot of nothing. But anyway, the warrant sat unknown and unseen in the basement of a Mississippi courthouse until June of last year, where members of the Till family and others found it during a search. At the time of the killing, Dorman wrote, "They didn't even tell me there was a warrant. I was never arrested or charged with anything," she said. The nagging question for some
means they only did it to cover their own ass. That's what that means.
Right. Yeah, because the police didn't want to be implicated in this, even though this was decades ago. Keith Beauchamp, a filmmaker and activist who helped find the warrant, believes the decision against indicting Dorman lies not with the grand jurors who voted against new charges, but a system that goes back generations.
Yep.
Mississippi law enforcement, which was all white at the time of the killing, allowed Dorman to avoid justice in a misguided quest to protect white womanhood, she said, and that same veiling is covering her now, or at least while she was alive.
Yep.
Chivalrous impulse allowed this woman to go untouched for 67 years, said Beauchamp, who released a documentary, The Untold Story of Emmett Till, in 2005, and helped write and produce the upcoming movie Till, a drama second to premiere in October. By the way, I've seen a clip, I think Reef showed this to me, of like the scene,
the mother
where Mama Till is explaining, how she wanted to keep the funeral open casket. Very powerful.
Yeah. Like her in the courtroom. Her in the courtroom is the one I probably showed you. Which is like Oscar nom. Like,
yeah,
shit,
like,
very good. Incredible performance.
I should probably watch the whole thing, but I remember that, and I was like, if you ever watch, definitely watch that if you ever get a chance. By the way, I should definitely watch the whole thing at some point. I probably might watch it maybe next week when I have
we can find it to watch together. I'll watch that with you. I'm down.
So, that could be another
movie night, something like that. Okay.
With our fans, our members.
Yeah.
But anyway. But in announcing a LaForge County grand jury's decision not to indict Dunham, the district attorney, Dwayne Richardson, on Tuesday cited only evidence. Members of the panel were present with testimony from witnesses who told about the investigation of Till's killing from 2004 till now, he said in a statement. After hearing more than 7 hours of testimony from witnesses with direct knowledge about this case and the investigators that investigated this case, the grand jury determined that there was not sufficient evidence to indict Dunham, said Richardson, who is Black. Members of the Till family weren't pleased with that decision, you think? Yet Pastor Wheeler Parker of Chicago, Till's cousin, who was with the youth the night he was abducted from a family home, sounded a conciliatory tone about the failure to obtain the indictment, a decision which he called unfortunate but predictable. The state of Mississippi assured me and my family they would leave no stone unturned in the fight for justice for my cousin Emmett. They kept their promise by bringing this latest piece of evidence before the grand jury, he said.
Yep.
In her memoir, Dorman denied doing anything to get Till killed and expressed sorrow for his family's too little too late.
She but you also did. That's you just being in straight denial. You absolutely had a part in it. The biggest part, in fact.
She portrayed herself as another Karen. Yeah, I changed it.
Yeah, she victiming.
For the horrible crime. As someone who quit trusting strangers and is been hounded by media for decades. That's the least of your worries, honestly.
Right, you're going to be the victim? No, you started the whole thing. What the fuck? Anyway.
For some, enough is enough. Donna may not have paid the price that some wanted her to pay, but she has suffered for what happened to Till. Anyone who claims otherwise is not being honest with themselves. It's time to let her be. The Greenwood Commonwealth newspaper in LaForge County said in an editorial after the grand jury decision was announced. You can fuck off with that. To Ollie Gordon, another one of Till's cousins, some justice may have been served even without anyone being convicted in the killing. Miss Dunham has not gone to jail. But in many ways, I don't think she had a pleasant life. I think each day she wakes up, she has to face the atrocities that may have come because of her actions, Gordon said. Probably true, but there still needs to be justice in this. And I can't argue really there hasn't been any justice in this, especially in light of what happened to him. So I wanted to play this. I'm not going to play all of it. So this was this was a clip that I found. So Donna, I think her last essentially place before she passed on was in Bowling Green, that's in South Carolina, right? Bowling Green.
I think.
Or I know it's either in North or South Carolina. I think it's in South Carolina, I believe. Could be wrong. Let me know in the chat where Bowling Green is. So basically, there were protesters. This is after the, indictment and whatever. So there are protesters protesting outside her house, and the cops were outside protecting said house. Right? So I want to play a few minutes of it just for you guys to kind of see this record. Some of you, this might be familiar for some, especially if you were witness or part of the George Floyd protests back in 2020. That's exactly what this reminded me of, actually. So, Reef, if you don't mind playing,
yep,
this clip.
With her feet on the table somewhere, and you can't understand how to move and do your job. You don't have the guts don't have the nerve to stand up for what is right. But you remember this day. Don't ever forget this day. We were on the side of right. You on the side of confusion. Because some of y'all out there know y'all don't want this mess with Collin Bryant.
That's right.
Some of y'all out there ran before Collin Bryant to get arrested and be done with it. Look at the shame she's brought to Bowling Green. You got to do your job. You got to be unpopular to do what's right.
That's right.
Don't call Jesus names right. And you a coward. Because that's what you are right now. All of you in the blue, you're cowards. You're not doing your job. This is not what you signed up for.
We work for what is human. We work for what is right. While you stand there and you look at us and laugh at us as though we're here and wrong. God knows we're here for right. We came as peace. I'm a peace activist. I'm a peace ambassador for this country, for the United Nations. We work.
You notice who's behind her?
Where?
That guy.
Oh. We know him.
Yeah, we
Shout out
know
to
him.
the chairman.
Yeah. And I kind of like whoever's next to him. You know? Fucking bring the heat, young man.
Chairman.
Yeah. Fucking sure. That might not be the chairman. That might be another black man in a beret, but you know.
It looks like him now.
Good for you, though. Whoever you are. If that's a Molly, good for you.
We came as peace. I'm a peace activist. I'm a peace ambassador for this country, for the United Nations. We work for peace, and yet you stand there and you look at us as though we're clowns, as though we've got the problem over here. We're just asking you for your humanity. We're trying to make you be what you ought to be. So please act like you have some humanity. Back away from us. We just want justice.
Private security.
We know that Collin Bryant has come to your city.
Government security.
Save your city from the embarrassment today that's going on over this world, all over the world. They are looking at you,
they have
brother.
The high ground.
They're looking at you, brother. They're looking at you, sister. They're looking at your police chief. And they are wondering what in the world is going on. People have not had justice anywhere we've been.
Give up,
it's
Anakin.
Not just in Mississippi. And the world today knows it's in Bowling Green too. Because Bowling Green is protecting a criminal. And we're here to say the criminals must pay. And we cannot believe it, as I'm sure people all over this world cannot believe. Yes, they have sent some of our people off to war to fight for this country, and they've come back here, and this is what we face, even from some of our own people in this country who are standing there and who are not protecting us. They're protecting the criminal. Amen. God bless them. God.
I mean, you got the point. That the whole thing is 10 minutes, but it was just more of that for 10 minutes. But
sure.
So
I could watch that for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know.
I think for time now. I think for time now we'll go on. So this last clip, last tweet for Bishop Talbot Swan, I've had some issues with some things that he has said. But you know, I think he's on point for this. So to end this clip, I'll just read what he says here. So he says, Biden's Department of Justice refused to prosecute Collin Bryant, who admitted that she lied on Emmett Till, causing his murder, and lied on the witness stand to protect her husband, Emmett's murder. Now he has the caucasity to dedicate a monument, a symbol, after failing to provide substance. Justice, hypocrisy, disrespect, apathy, racism. But they'll be asking for your votes. Not mine. So yeah. So yeah, that's Emmett Till, fellow ancestor. And yeah, it's a shame that didn't get a lot of play on this in independent media, but but like I said, I think it's important to kind of talk about him, especially in light of recent actions, especially given
well, this story you mainly brought to shout out the hypocrisy of Joe Biden, who has done nothing to change the system that causes all these things in the first place.
And I think, and that's why I think, especially in light of that, because especially in that Business Insider article, they went right into Republicans bad, Republicans are changing the curriculum in Florida.
Democrats are equally a problem in the system.
Right. So, exactly. And it's like, Democrats, as of now, have funded the police more. Democrat, they didn't even mention that. Essentially, Biden was complicit in allowing Dunham to be essentially, protected. Like,
well, this is the haves versus the have-nots at the core level. This is always related to class. And look, that you see what those cops were more than just white and black out there protecting their fucking, protecting the moneyed interests. So while the people who want justice and peace are always the one that their guns are pointed at, so who knows? But it's just frustrating that this is as good as you'll get. You'll only get symbolic gestures of, it's practically platitudes that I'm sure will give some museum owner, a stipend, and the city of Chicago will, get some back pay out of, but it's a gesture, but fix the system would be a far better gesture.
Right.
But, what do I know? So, but anyway, you ready for our next one?
We got one more. Yeah. So let me do a check. Let's do a check real quick. Oh, someone didn't like us because we lost a sub.
Okay.
So, okay.
Well, whatever.
So
sure. But anyway,